DreamHack Open is brought to you by Astro, Monster Energy, Corsair, Hacks, and GGBet.
Hours and hours of competition have brought us to this point. The grand finals about to go live between Rogue and Heroic. Two teams that I don't think anybody expected to be here. Right off the bat, we thought it would be others, but look at that glorious trophy. Not only will they take home the bragging rights and the cash prize, but that trophy will be theirs. As we can see, it's going to be an interesting series. It's already been an interesting weekend. I am your host, Bach. I want to thank you guys for watching out there. Also want to thank our sponsors, Astro, Corsair, Monster Energy, Hacks, and of course, makers of the world's greatest IPA. And I am not exaggerating. Voodoo Ranger. I'm talking of New Belgium Brewery. But I've got Lurpus and Hazed on the desk to talk about what we should expect to see from this grand final. It's been a really interesting tournament. Upsets and also disappointments.
Yeah, absolutely. And both of these teams had a lot to prove coming into this. Space Soldiers with arguably terrible land performances. I think they've had excuses for that with the map pool change, but and Rogue has been a roster that has struggled even just online, just qualifying for things. They've been very lackluster, and when they picked up Ricky, I don't think anyone really thought they were going to perform as well as they did. I think they've turned a lot of heads, and I'm actually looking forward to their future, in online at least in the leagues.
I think actually Rogue in that sense has almost no pressure because I think they've already exceeded everybody's expectations, whereas frankly I think for Space Soldiers, you should expect them to come here and win just looking at the team list. They should expect to beat everybody here just based on their online performances, and if they don't, I mean it's gonna be disappointing.
Yeah. I also misspoke. I meant to say Space Soldiers and I totally said Heroic. It's okay. I blame you because you sowed the seed of doubt. I did it once and you're like, way to go, you messed it up.
Hey,
I was like,
don't blame me. It's all right.
Now I'm attacking Lurpus with my pen, which I desperately need. But, I mean, it has been, you know, Space Soldiers who had a lot to prove because they've had all these great performances online, all these opportunities to qualify for events, and then they just kind of fail to deliver when they get there. Here, they've made it into the grand finals to face off against Rogue. Rogue beat Fragsters to get their 2-1. And then Space Soldiers really shut down Heroic. They looked fantastic, and especially when you start looking at Calyx. I mean, that performance from Calyx was absurd.
They had great individual performances, both from Xantares and Calyx, their two-star players, but frankly, they played better than you should expect. So, you know, it's unlikely that we'll get similar performances in the grand final, at least from both of them. It's likely that one of them comes a little closer down to the ground. But at the same time, you know, there's other players who can step up, and frankly, I mean, outside of Ricky, individually, I think those two still have a pretty big margin for error.
Yeah, I think Rogue is more evenly distributed on how they get frags and carry the team. I think they're probably more based on teamwork and who's in position to make the play, and they're willing to let that person do it because they trust each other in that way. I'm sure Space Soldiers do as well, but there's a clear skill difference between the top two and Space Soldiers and the other three. So I feel like they're going to be spending most of their time trying to set up those two players, specifically Xantares early round. We saw it against Heroic in both maps. Xantares was leading the charge. He had, I mean, over triple the next person in entry kills. He's clearly the one they're going to try and set up early, and Calyx is obviously an ace finisher. We just saw him destroy them.
I think the interesting thing to look out for in this series is, obviously we've talked about Rogue's dual ops throughout this tournament quite a bit. Meanwhile, Space Soldiers, they have Major opping. Major is not a particularly effective opper. I mean, he plays that on CT sides in spots where he feels comfortable, he can get some kills, but by no means is he a world beater with the weapon. So I think that's something where if Rogue can get maps where oppers can get into favorable position, both on T and CT side, I think Cadian and Ricky can play a huge part in the series.
I also think there might be a little mismatch here between these two teams, because we just saw Space Soldiers in the series they just played versus Heroic. They played very slow on their T side, default based, and I think that allows a team that likes to double up, clearly Rogue, to, if you're going to play slow and default into them, you're going to get picked off more often than not, especially if you don't know how to default properly. So we'll see what happens.
And I think the map pool is going to be one of the important factors as well. You know, looking at these two teams, we mentioned that double AWP presence. The fact that Space Soldiers doesn't really have that. If we end up on AWP-heavy maps, something like Train perhaps, it could be a map that totally goes Rogue's way. Is there something we should expect to see? I think right off the bat, we're going to see Space Soldiers go with the tried and true overpass veto and probably Rogue vetoes cache.
I think those are safe. I expect to see Inferno.
Probably Mirage, I think.
Probably as well. Yes, I would agree.
Okay.
Nuke cache. I think
so. Rogue might pick overpass here.
That would be that's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me because the reality is Space Soldiers permabans overpass. So if they allow it through simply because Rogue already played it, there you go.
They did.
That is pretty bold. That is brave.
I mean, if you think about the roster and what they're rocking, the double AWP setup now, I think it could be that's a super strong map for double AWP. We saw SK absolutely dominate that map in 2017.
I think it's the most effective map for double AWPing, even more so than Train.
Yeah, I would agree. There's so many places that you can push with an AWP, and it's easily like the most, I would say, I don't know how to describe it. There's so many points to fall back to and get another pick and then fall back and then get another pick before you even get to the bomb site. There's so much room to operate as an AWP on overpass that I think that could be a very good map for them. I'm surprised to see what Space Soldiers will pull out on that map.
So we've got Inferno as the decider. Mirage being Space Soldiers' pick is not terribly surprising. It's got to be a little scary for Rogue as they just dumpstered Heroic on that map not that long ago. That was where we really saw Calyx kind of take flight. But at the same point in time, there were mistakes made by Space Soldiers that let Heroic into the game a little bit, but Calyx just kept slamming the door on him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Calyx doesn't get, like, let's say even half of those clutches, Heroic might actually win that map. So the way they played that map isn't necessarily a sustainable recipe for success, I don't think. There's gonna have to be better performances across the map, maybe some better calls, you know, just little things going their way, because you're not gonna be winning that many clutches throughout the full series.
Yeah, and I am actually surprised to not see Dust2 being banned by Space Soldiers. I'm guessing they saw something in Rogue's gameplay on that map that was not good for them.
Might be the double ops.
Yeah, maybe.
Now we sat down with the players to talk to them about what it took to get here and what they'll need to do to make it as the champions of DreamHack Open Austin. Let's take a look.
It feels very good to be in the grand finals of an NA tournament. Everybody was doubting us and nobody thought we would even make it out of groups. So to have beaten teams that are ranked way above us and also prove the casters and everybody else wrong, it feels so good.
I feel very happy. We are ready for the final and we will do everything to lift that trophy. Every match we step up in terms of level, so I hope in the final we keep that way.
Bringing home the trophy means the world to me. It's been my goal since day one and I can't wait if we actually do it. I personally like to feed off the audience a lot and the crowd cheering my name and hearing, seeing my teammates around me getting hype. It's going to be a good show, and I think we can do it.
So we lost against them in the group stage, and we are looking for the revenge. We're coming for you, Rogue, and we're coming for the trophy.
And Hiko is not fond of us, apparently. He said casters, though, not analyst and host. So to be fair, he's probably talking about like Blue, Launders, Dust, and Risk.
To be fair, I did apologize in the interview to him for sleeping on him, okay?
I had him picked, I think, for like one series. I think we picked them for the Fragster series as well. So that's, you turned around. You 180'd on him. But you can take a look just at the players we're going to be seeing in game: Vicek, Katie, and Hiko, and of course Ricky, the pickup who has really been a surprising performance booster for Rogue.
I don't think it's surprising, in my opinion at least. I think he could have joined most teams within North America and been an improvement.
So that's the thing, I was kind of hoping we would get him in a post-game interview so I could be like, listen, you just blew up in all of the games, you've been playing really well, so like, what happened? Because you were teamless for months, like, why was no one interested in you? Because you clearly have what it takes.
I mean, I think the way the Counter-Strike scene works is if you just miss a window that's between the seasons of online play or right after the majors when teams normally shuffle, I think you can kind of just be left behind. So there's also, you know, contract situations we don't know. Well, James might know. I don't know when his contract expired. So, you know, it could be another situation where he knew that if he waited a couple months, teams wouldn't have to pay his buyout to get him on the team. So he'd have more selection of where to go. Yeah,
I'm not sure on the specifics of that to be... No, I'm not lying here. I'm being dead serious. I actually don't know. But I was surprised he wasn't at least scouted for, you know, a top-tier team within North America. Because I think he is super valuable and as being a flexible opper and rifler and a secondary caller. So he's just kind of like the complete package. He also, from what I know, has like a pretty good attitude. So as we're seeing on screen, Hiko making a grand final appearance. This is his first time since... Ooh, was it on Liquid? The major?
He's nodding.
It
yes.
is. What's it like to be back, brother?
He loves the camera, so I think he feels right at home.
I love the hat. Now, you know, Ricky, coming into this roster, we've been talking about him, but we've also been talking about Sick. We've also mentioned Vice as well. But really, they've been a little bit more lackluster. Like, Sick has had his moments, but Vice has sort of disappeared at times, and Cadian's really been the one that's stepped up big.
To be clear, me and James have mostly been talking about Ricky, and you've hedged your opinions like you hedge everything else by talking equally about everyone. So, you know, should things go differently, you can always point back to a Twitch clip.
I do think, I mean, Sick and Vice are playing a role where it's not like you're going to be like the star of a team. You're getting entries, you're the guy leading charges, you're going 1 for 1 most of the time, or 0 for 1 depending on how good your executes are. So
you gotta be Xantares level aimer basically to not do that.
Literally.
And he was a fantastic player for Space Soldiers throughout the tournament, but again, we talked about him in Calyx in that last map. That last series was just lights out. If he plays like that, I don't even know if the double op threat is as concerning, simply because every time they find themselves down a player or two, which would be that op picking him off from range, he was clutching the situations out. He had that 1v3 with like 10 HP left. It was a 1v2, 7 seconds on the clock, and he still wins it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how do you counter double ops? First of all, you play fast. You don't allow the ops to go for picks. You counter those positions directly, or you avoid them, depending on how they play. And then you just break the other team's money. That's the way. That's by far the biggest risk with playing dual ops. It takes quite a bit of time to save up for them. And if you just get countered with a fast push somewhere where you don't even basically get a chance to really put them into play, you're going to be steered away from them, at least be inclined to try something else.
Yeah, and Space Soldiers have shown a tendency to play slow, and their executes have been, they're not innovative in any way. They're doing pretty basic stuff, but they're doing it well. And you can have, you know, Xantares, one of the best aimers in Counter-Strike Go that we have, and as good as he is, without proper support, like flashing at the right time, smokes in the right areas, and having everything be coordinated, he's not going to get kills. So he does have a supporting cast that's helping him, and they're knowing that if we set him up properly, he's going to open up bomb sites for us with his amazing aim, because you can set up a guy who has bad aim, he's going to get that kill, but how many kills he gets after that first is really what separates a, you know, like a decent entry fragger from Xantares.
And this guy really stepped up in the previous game as well. Engine, he finished with about 80 ADR. That's about double what he had in the previous game. So, you know, he really brought up his level of play. Calyx here. Hiko actually almost surprised. Like, you would think that surprisingly many entry kills, but then you notice Calyx, he's at 16. And when you looked at Space Soldiers at the end of the previous game, everybody else was at like 5 to 8, and I think he had 0. So...
Boy, he was definitely filling in like a lurking clutch.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. These are the guys you won't be seeing going first.
Yeah, these are definitely the lurkers, and their stats are fairly similar. Obviously, Calyx has more games played, so his stats are going to be higher here. But as a lurker, you're not really going to be sporting a lot of ADR or anything like that. It's usually you're going to have a pretty high kill-death ratio, a lot of surviving a lot of rounds and getting a lot of clutches, a stat which I don't think was there. So you don't really get to see the impact in that respect, but that's what these players do. It's usually their roles is to do something like that. So.
The concern is sustainability. How long could they possibly survive on Xantares and Calyx basically bailing them out of those situations? You can go ahead and cast your vote in the chat, !ROG or !SS for Rogue and Space Soldiers. I mean, you're looking at those two players and how hard they had to work to get Space Soldiers through those games. like you had said, Lurpus, you can't survive on that. That's a non-sustainable business model.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but at the same time, you know, they didn't go to a third map against Heroic. They could have easily afforded to drop a map and then have someone else play a little bit better on a third map. So, I mean, in some ways, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, they will not win the same way. These guys will not most likely finish with similar stats as they did in the semifinal. But, like, it's not like they got through by the skin of their teeth, right? Like, there was margin for error left that just wasn't used because these players played so well.
Yeah, and there could be something said that Heroic wasn't here with a coach, were they? I don't believe they were.
I don't think so.
As for Rogue, they do have a coach, so their preparation could potentially be better for this matchup than Heroic's was for Space Soldiers. So you don't really know how prepared a team's going to go into it. I feel like having a coach is going to increase their preparedness. They're going to be strategically ready for this, so I think it gives them a better shot.
I saw Rogue's coach actually between the last series and this one watching demos. Yeah. Like, it wasn't a long period of time for him to watch, but he was probably just watching the VOD, just breaking down essentially what just transpired between Space Soldiers and Heroic to get an idea of what they should expect.
That's their job.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what? A lot of coaches, you know, they might not necessarily go to that level of effort. They might just be like, you know, we're here to play our game. I'm not going to be concerned with what they do.
Well, yeah, we've had this talk before on some desk segments. I've been a part of at other tournaments where there's two kinds of coaches. There's the analytical coach, and then there's like the morale coach. There's some teams that have those and prefer those. I don't see a problem with either one. I think you just got to take the good with the bad. I think if you have an in-game leader that's willing to study, it's okay to have a morale coach. But I personally would like an analytical coach. I think that's the better look for everybody.
I mean, I'd like a coach that adds value.
Yes.
That's actually measurable and not, you know, and not just yelling behind you, and hopefully that has some kind of psychological effect that might or might not help you.
Look, there's some weak-minded players out there. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
So
we gotta weed those guys out.
I think it's time for predictions. Lurpus, where are you going with this one?
I think that I've actually done.
No way, you're not doing it.
I got Space Soldiers.
Okay, I
thought you were going to jump across the line. I'm actually going to go ahead and say that Rogue takes this one. I like what we saw from Rogue. I think the double op threat is a serious problem for Space Soldiers, and I really don't think they can do that again. But James, you have 3 reasons why, presented by Hacks. I'm not sure which direction you're going, but I think I know.
Just wait and see. So I got 3 reasons why I think this is going to be a great final. I'm not choosing a team right off the bat, so joke's on y'all.
Boo.
First reason is because
man.
of Xantares and Calyx. If you saw their match versus Heroic, they were the dominant 1-2 punch. Xantares opening up bomb sites, Calyx ending the round. It was an amazing thing to watch. They both sported over 100 ADR. They were carrying their teams, and when they play it, anyone plays at this level, like Simple, it's just a pleasure to watch. My second reason is because of Rogue's double op. Rikke joining the team has really added a new dynamic to this team, especially on their CT side. It has opened up a lot of maps and made them, I think, I won't go as far as to say a tier 1 team yet. We need to see more from them, but it has definitely made them a challenger, at least within NA. And my third reason is because both teams have a lot to prove. At least they had a lot to prove. They both made it to the final. Space Soldiers have had a rough time on land in the last few months, and online they've been incredible. So it's good to see them finally performing. Their first day was rough, but they have picked up steam every match. And Rogue, we had no expectations of them. I don't think anyone did. So seeing them make it to the finals and playing the way they are, it's great to see.
So James, we're going to throw it to the casters, but I want to hear what you have to say. What's your actual prediction?
I think it's 2-1, but I think either team can win. But I'm going to go with Rogue because
All right, good. Not riding the fence. I like to see it.
Hey,
guys, what do you think? Are we right? Is this going to be a Rogue series?
I don't know. I'm kind of in agreement with James there. I think it's going to be a very, very close series as well, and it could really go either way. I'm personally tempted to favor a little bit more towards Space Soldiers based off of the really incredible performances we were seeing from players like Calyx in the last series, but there's a very easy chance for it to go in the other direction and Rogue's way as well because of the double op threat.
Yeah, I think, you know, throughout the tournament, every day, Space Soldiers have gotten better and better, but they haven't gotten more North American. And I think that's the real issue for this team, and I don't know how they're going to overcome it by the end of the series. So really
always loyal. Always loyal. You gotta love it. Go ahead and take it away, guys. I believe the players are ready to go.
All right, thank you very much, Buck. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, for the grand finals of the DreamHack Open Austin. We are almost ready to jump into our first map of this best of 3. And the map pool, interestingly enough, this is one thing where I think it could actually sway back in the direction of Rogue. But at the same time, even the Mirage, as you were talking about a few days ago, it tends to be kind of an NA map. The performance we saw from Space Soldiers on that map just in the last series, I don't know. It's so close. It's so hard to call what we're going to see here out of this one.
Yeah, it is really close. And again, I mean, yesterday we were talking about Space Soldiers, and it was like every single player had some amazing star player quality play that we had to go back and talk about. And it was just such a jarring difference between day one Space Soldiers, who were a little bit jet lagged, who, you know, we had Major nading himself and, like, you know, all kinds of fumbles, and here having them in the finals versus Rogue. But for Rogue, on the other hand, just beat Fragsters, who were my pick to win the whole event. So if chain logic proves to be true, I think that Rogue has a really good chance.
All right, guys. Well, it is going to be starting here in just a couple of seconds. The players themselves already did the knife round, which Space Soldiers won. So this is another advantage that they're going to get to start here, as they're going to be jumping onto CT side at the beginning of the match.
Yeah, so for CT side, again, the problem for Space Soldiers is their lack of oppers. I mean, they have people who will pick it up, but there's no one on this team that you think, all right, you expect them to be opping every round. You know, sometimes it's Major, sometimes it's Paz. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of people can agree if you have good first bullet accuracy and you've spent a little bit of time with the weapon, as long as you're a good player, you can have impact with it. But then you go up against players like Ricky, who are actually, you know, thoroughbred oppers, and there might be a bit of concern because you would expect that he's going to win a few of the more pure op duels between each other, and I think that's where Rogue might edge it out.
All right, guys, well, here it comes. Map number 1 out of 3 for the grand finals of the DreamHack Open Austin. It's Rogue versus Space Soldiers, and we're going to Mirage. Space Soldiers starting on the defense. Rogue jumping onto the offense here. And to open things up, well, it is going to be a little bit of a play to get mid control from Rogue by the looks of it, as they set players to spread in B-halls and top mid. No control going to be gained just yet, as they are holding it back for a couple of seconds. And at the same time, Space Soldiers have their own presence here too.
Everybody in this default. Santeris finally spots somebody. 3 people, in fact, who are actually going to turn tail and run back to pick up the bomb. Interesting to see. I wonder if there's going to be a change of strategy, if they wanted to see if they could get up Cat for free, and instead might be congregating for the entire B split.
It's looking like now we got that big stack of players on the inside ready to move out. It's a very passive setup as well on the inside of the B site from Space Soldiers. Paz holding himself back on Cat. No more arches now as he pushes forward, but an immediate rotate from Xantares as the flashes go out into the site. Paz ready to hold the opener. Wow, that second shot gets to number 3. 2 tries to make it 4, but he can't make it happen as Vice trades him out finally. But regardless, Rogue have been brought down to only 2 players remaining here, and Space Soldiers still hold good control with the bomb out in the open down by arches. There's not really a safe way for Rogue to try and secure this plant, and you see an example of that right there. Vice tries to go for that cross, is immediately picked off. Now just Hiko left over looking for a 1v4 clutch. Started off well, but sadly, it is looking like he's going to get overwhelmed here, and with Engine picking up the last kill, Space Soldiers will win the opening round.
What exactly are you supposed to do versus shots like that? The 3 kills, I mean, the second one was so mind-bendingly fast, you missed it totally. There it is, that first shot, and then the flick up. He caught sick falling into Vin. That's nuts.
That second kill, easily the most impressive out of the 3 that he picks up right
hot
here.
Off the aimbots.
So quick correction from him, completely shut down the Rogue offensive, crippled them for the remainder of the round, and made it easy for Space Soldiers to cut ahead here. And now, of course, Rogue unable to get the plant. They will be buying directly into this second round, so it's the force up for them. Katie on the scout, everyone else playing for CZs, and another slow opener. They're going to spread out a little bit more this time. Mainly, I think, more so to watch out for aggression on the CT side here, especially, as you can tell from those 2 players stacked on the steps leading to underpass.
Yeah. As for Space Soldiers, they don't have to change much. On patrol here, Xantares takes care of window as well as anybody who might be sneaking out of underpass. First contact is made. Cadian takes a scout shot, but no damage received. As for Xantares, he's starting to become more passive as he collects more information. And it's going to force Rogue's hand a little bit more as time ticks down, and they're furthering their map control.
We are going to see the push from Rogue in mid, sadly unsuccessful for the most part, as Major and Engine are going to rip the entire hit apart along with Xantares jumping in there for 2 frags as well. Vice now the last man standing, sitting over here on ramp. So he attempt to make a push. Gets a dink off there on the Calyx, but sadly no frags to be found. A clean anti-eco from Space Soldiers, and they're now up 2-0.
It's kind of all you have to do as a CT side, just to keep tabs on all these different angles. As soon as you start to make contact, fall back a little bit, alert your teammates, make sure that no one can actually come up connector, and it's really on Rogue to take those final few steps to decide what site they want to go to and how much presence they want to make. Now with the Glock by 5 players, they're going to be moving out toward, oh, I lied, 4. Vice is split up and is now in Palace. He's making a lot of noise and has actually shown bomb. Might get pushed as well as Calyx doesn't want to let this opportunity escape. A ramp player has decided not to go overstay his welcome either. I think they are assuming that it's going to be some kind of A split. I'd be totally confused if I were Space Soldiers at the moment.
It is a bit of a weird opener for Space Soldiers. Zantari is getting all of the players from mid, however, pushing in his direction. The Major now trying to take the fight as well. Space Soldiers backing up, but he missed the push from Katie that got him access to Connector. Thankfully, Paz still has himself control of the cat position. Nico trading it back. Engine, however, finishes him off right afterwards, leaving only Vice. Regardless, though, considering this is a full save from Rogue, they're still doing quite a bit of damage here compared to the completely flawless anti-eco that Space Soldiers just had on the round previously. This is already way more economical damage that's going to be done, and they still haven't been able to figure out where exactly Vice positioned himself just yet. He's going to dive right in. I think he's got the plan. I don't think Calix can get around to him in time.
Oh, yeah,
there we go.
Puts this down. Yeah, it's well done. That's a lot of money for a Rogue, and it's funny because Vice was the first person to show himself. They knew exactly that an A-split was coming. All he did was hold his position in Palace for a long time. I'm actually surprised. I think a lot of people would have just jumped out of Palace, but you really do want to have more of a selfish mentality on these eco rounds where you're thinking about either getting the bomb to the bomb plant zone, putting it down, or working on your one kill, baiting your teammates. You really think less about the team aspect, or you think about it from a different perspective of like, all right, I can sacrifice my teammate more freely because I know that getting the kill is more important than my teammate's life. And so if you have an opportunity, it's understood. There's you look around your teammates, there's a head nod in agreement that's like, all right, this is cool, and you can get away with some of those plays that you wouldn't normally be able to do responsibly on a rifle round like this one. Round 4, and Rogue have everything they need to work with. Cadian, first man to pick up the op. We know he's proficient with it. Zalteris is holding down this lineup. I think he's waiting to hear some noise before he pulls down on the spray. Not sure if he's still in window here. There, brings off.
Holds it, but he's getting a little bit too much pressure thrown against him, so he's going to fall back, but Paz can now jump in. There's the assist flash coming out for him, but sick, great trade being found from the chair spot. He's able to take him right back, and we're locked in a 4v4. Problem being for Rogue, though, is they use so much utility out here in mid. Now what are they going to take the site with? This Major comes in for another pick, finding Hiko trying to sneak out the B halls.
A lot of information gathered and gained. Vice now is in playmaking mode. He has to be careful about falling off the balcony because his shadow can be seen. And knows that Calix might be under here, which is a huge problem for him. But because of the man disadvantage, he's incentivized to take a risk that you might not normally want to take.
He's got support now from Zamaris too, and he immediately pops the head off of Vice as he tries to peek out from Palace. They spot one more ramp, sick, trying to turn the odds back around over here towards Connector, and he does find a trade. Looks like they might pull a lateral as well after that kill is found. They're going to head back through mid. Six is going to split over towards Cat, and specifically Katie with the bomb in hand is going to head into the B halls instead. So they're going to make a run towards the southern sites. Zentares spots the play, however, from Sick back over towards Connector Cat. And now, one remains here. Cadian going to have to try to pull off a 1v3, and as he pushes into the site, the very least, Major will miss his own opening shot, but Cadian's now stuck here. Doesn't feel safe to push out onto the actual site just yet. Hold back, tries to go for another quick scope on Major, misses it, knows he's hiding in there somewhere. Dives in, is now time's getting very low, needs to find a plant, but he wastes too much of it. And Zentares will complete the rotate and shut him down.
There was definitely a moment in time there where it maybe made more sense to save. I feel like he saw an opportunity, but should have been when maybe the rotates were in. Here, they don't have enough money to threaten with any kind of decent buy. They're going to have a couple of flashes, and it seems like potentially a well-thought-out eco strat, but this round was really all Zentaris, right? The 2 kills on A as support, the information at mid. And again, this is maybe Zentaris' best map, so really look for him in that connector position, and sometimes in CT now in their new setup.
Going to be a slow build-up, I think, on this round from Rogue, but rather explosive end to it more than likely, as they've got the majority of the teams stacked up once again, ready to jump out, try to force the issue, at least get themselves a plant. They do have a little bit of utility to play off of, and the smokes are going to be used along with, I think, one flash here to get them out. But Paz ready for the battle, however, he will be flashed out. Thankfully, Calix can also assist. That doesn't stop Vites, however, from providing at least one trade from out of the van position. But now the cavalry's arrived. Everyone from Space Soldiers having rotated back over, and they're going to look to shut this down quickly as they drop the bomb. Getting only 6 to fight. It's a good shot from him. Adds at least one more kill to the counter, but sadly can't find more than that.
Yeah, that's a good kill, and it's a quick 5-0 for Space Soldiers. They are off to a running start. And this is where Rogue really needed to get together because, you know, past this point, it starts to get a little bit depressing. You know, you start to think about losing the entire map, and they can't afford to do that, unfortunately. This is go time. They've only got basically a couple hours left in the day that could really represent a tournament that I think will stay with them for a long time. This would be an incredible result, you know, for Rogue to be able to take this tournament. So a pause is called, and I think they're going to go over things. I don't know maybe if they just need a breather or not, but potentially to talk about things on T side. And Sitka has an op. I assume that he'll drop it to Cadian. On the previous rifle rounds, they fell apart a little bit at mid, trying to take control of it. We saw a similar situation where one of the answers, instead of going to top mid and losing some players, is to actually avoid that and try to go through underpass to subvert the connector guy. It's actually 6 to take a spawn right out mid. Not going to see any moves from the CTs quite yet. Going out dry, catching Major totally off guard.
Zentares as well expects the pressure to be on Cat. Now Calyx has to hold the line, but he can only find one frag. Paz at least finding one through the smoke that's set up on Cat, but that's it. The site's been taken. Full control is gained by Rogue just through shock value in mid. And now it's at the Space Soldiers. Do they want to attempt this? They've certainly got the utility to at least attempt it. Full kits on both Engine and Paz, but it's a full rotate. They're completely smoked off right now, and if they don't find anything soon, they might call this off and go for a save instead.
It's definitely something to consider. A very unlikely retake, and you can see them taking steps forward and backwards.
Spotted now, so the element of surprise is gone. They're going to use their utility to move back in. Sick misses his opening shot, and Engine's going to be able to pick up a kill as well. The last two on the T side all stuck back here by Ticket. Paz has no time left, just got to jump onto the bomb. There's no way he's going to get this, is he? No, the molly burdens him out, so the bomb will be blowing up, and with that, Rogue take their first opening round.
At the cost of 5 lives, and oh my god, that defuse, that was something similar to the Olaf defuse on Overpass. I mean, the circumstances are not quite the same, but it was close. And I think that Vice didn't even realize he was on the bomb because he didn't bother spraying through the smoke. And if that molly hadn't killed him, I think would have been able to get away with it. But pulled off the right and left click Molotov, so it didn't go too far. And I think that was a very cool move by him. But again, Rogue somehow, even after that round, I mean, thankfully for the plant. Lost 5 players, but still have enough for this op and all of their utility as well.
We're getting lucky in certain respects that the molly actually does spread in the way that it does, because initially it wasn't hitting. It wasn't until I think it spread for the first or second time that it actually started dealing damage and burnt out Paz's HP, leading to his death, and obviously stopping that very, very close defuse, giving Rogue their first round. As you had mentioned, though, pretty much no one surviving it from Rogue, so they're still in the hot seat, because if Space Soldiers trade this one out, we don't see any saves from Rogue. And that's it. They're right back to square one, and Space Soldiers are going to be able to take another 2 or 3 rounds. Out to mid, they catch Major there. Paz and Zentares looking to contain the situation, and they do just that. However, it's not over yet. Zentares flipping around before he gets that kill on Ricky, and now just leaves Hiko in this situation. 1v3, and he gave himself away. Had a good chance to kill this player on Cat, but now he's just locked in the B site with nothing to really do, sadly.
It's unreal precision. Just hitting that 180 button and flipping around twice. That 3-piece at mid. One thing that we have seen from Rogue that I think is fair to be critical about is the fact that when they take mid control, sometimes they do it a little bit too dry. They rely on the element of surprise, and that can actually cost them deaths. And here's one round where they popped a flash out, and Cadian got the opening kill on Major, which is huge. In the previous round, Major got caught off guard. And, you know, there is a world where Zentares actually gets killed in that situation, and you know, the round continues, but we don't live in that one. So now Rogue have to go back to pistols, 2 smoke grenades in hand, and they've actually got a lot of good ideas for these eco rounds. So I'm curious to see what they're going to try to do. Seems like Space Soldiers are keen on holding off on A, making sure that they can't get a plant as opposed to playing retake, but Calyx is back in CT and drops his AG grenade at A ramp.
Oof, that nade as well going back, doing good damage to 2, maybe even 3 players. Zentares, great spray control from him to contain the situation once again, same as the last round. Only Hiko in the situation. Well, that's a nice shot, at least gets 1 kill, but it's still a very easy anti-eco once more from Space Soldiers to go up 7-1 now.
Yeah, big mental reset here, so Rogue have some more time to think. 2K apiece on most players, and probably another round where they're going to have to get creative. There it is, the eco strap look.
Yeah,
we were on iPads in 2018.
Sometimes it's just good old pen and paper that people like.
That's true.
Starting it off in this round, obviously the full save coming in from Rogue. Force up that emptied out their bank accounts. The play in mid, though, works out, at least to find Zentares early on. But now all attention is going to be drawn to it by Space Soldiers. They move everyone here. Calyx even spotting the boost and preventing access to the window room. He's going to quickly fall back. Ooh, he almost gets overwhelmed there too. Engine's going to have a little bit of fun in mid, so is Calyx. As they look to shut this down quickly. Engine struggling a little bit here as he gets trapped inside of the window and goes down. A little bit messier than I think Space Soldiers wanted to clean this round up with, but at least they get the job done.
A very pertinent stat at this point is casualty count. I mean, how many people have Rogue actually killed so far? Just in the game in total, I mean, everybody is just about at 5 kills or under, which is kind of a problem.
Like 18 kills total.
Yeah, so you can it's represented a little bit more in the money of Space Soldiers, who have got some buys to work with, and I think Rogue have done like a decent job of killing them on the right rounds, because you can see they've actually still spent quite a bit, but they've got a buy in reserve at least. Oh, whoa. They're going to go for the Palace run out.
Oh, Space Soldiers are ready for it as well here, but Calyx is in a great spot to control it. Sadly, both him and Xantares are taken down before they even really realize what is going on in the situation here. So that's another quick shock and all play from Rogue. They get them access to A. And of course, even quicker, Space Soldiers will go for the rotate over to the other side, but they've been blocked out for now. Paz scared to even peek this approach to Ticket because of just how quickly Rogue managed to work their way into the site. But from the looks of it, it is still looking like they're going to make an attempt at it. They won't give up on it just yet. So they've got good access to the site. Now the smokes have gone. They can start to use their own utility to flush out players. Ricky, oh, wow, just gets that smoke down in time. One more tick and he'd be a dead man. So man, it's just to keep himself in the situation for a few more seconds. A lot of time getting wasted here too. Rogue are doing a great job of delaying the situation. Now they can finally pounce, knocking out 2 and 3 to the CTs. And only Major left now, as he's going to fall back, look for a save. But even that's going to be tough, as Cadian... Major will still fall, however, as Sick finishes off the job, and Rogue do finally claim a second round.
Okay, yeah, they are doing the shock and awe plays. I mean, just as you say, the mid control, that's very light, right? So it's to avoid being telegraphed, which is something they don't like to do. And the benefit to that is they're able to hold on to a lot of utility for the late round, for the post plan especially, and you can see from there, once they got out, they threw the jungle and stair smoke, but then afterwards had all the Molotovs and nades to stop people in CT, which is a benefit that you don't have when you throw the 3 smoke execute, the Molotov under Balk, and all of those extra flashes. So there's a benefit to that, but for Space Soldiers, those are the kind of plays that aren't going to work all the time. And once you, it's kind of a fool me once type of situation. So now they're chasing up with a quick B hit Engine as he runs right into his spray, and all he has to do is stand there. 2 entries come out. That leaves Paz alone from this position that Flusha loves outside of the get right pillar.
So just Cadian trying to work for something here. 1v3, not necessarily impossible to pull off, but wasting all this time is going to give the time that is needed for the rotates to come out. That's another nice bank nade for him. Cadian in general has been doing pretty good work with his HE nades so far in this game. Just a little bit under the damage needed to get the kill, though. So Paz will survive. Cadian is going to finally get the room he needs to find the plant, and does get it onto the ground, so guarantees the extra money at least. Sadly, won't help him in the event that he goes down. His team will still be reset here. At the very least, gives them a bit of extra cash for the next force buy. There's one, but doesn't realize Calyx was already ready to jump in from the apartment, so he gets the trade, and that'll be round number 9 for Space Soldiers.
Maybe if you had a little bit of extra HP or even time, but the spacing was nice from Space Soldiers, and it seemed like he had a very clear plan of how he was going to separate all those 3 frags and knew exactly that the one person was going to come from the market window. Probably would have been aware from the big flank after that, but again, it's really about how Space Soldiers only decided to peek market when they had that big flank in position to make sure to trade or even get to the kill first, leaving 2 alive and allowing Space Soldiers to get to 9. So the quick plays are not working out so well, and it seems like the methodical plays are also getting caught off guard, which is gonna definitely run the playbook of Rogue to death. So I think now we've got another close A ramp setup, which is very standard and very strong, where the op can take first contact and then Calyx can just clean up as the other player strafe out to trade. There is only going to be Hiko here waiting for the push. Smoking top connector, an eco strat that we've seen them do where they just run up cat and use this top connector smoke.
Nico, but Major, nice. Revolt to the shot, quickly take him down. Paz will catch 2 outside of the ladder room, but that does give an upgrade to Ricky. Oh, Major, though, catches them both as they try to run up cat, and that's the end of that. Space Soldiers are now in double digits at 10-2.
Yeah, he's trying to really establish himself as a primary on this team. We've seen Paz pick up the op, but definitely Major has been having a real good tournament with it, so this is nice from him. The no-scope and the double. Every editor's dream.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a nice follow-up round from him there. Obviously getting just some eco frags, but still impressive in the way that he does it. Now,
So somewhat low on resources in this round. It's going to be the slow, methodical approach to mid control, which you like to see from teams on the breadth of their T rounds. As of all this connector pressure, Major has decided to reposition, which kind of resets things, and Rogue are not at risk of getting opt, but they're actually not pushing out mid quite yet, so it's unclear exactly what their motive is with this amount of pressure, but it seems like they just want to be able to keep their options open to the late round. Smoke goes down in window, rotates her out. Major pushes into CT spawn now, which will probably be his home for a while. Ricky's going for the top connector smoke so they can work on this split finally.
Nico, of course, going back down through the underpass, makes his way out with the assistance of the smoke and window. They'll stay control there. That'll be full control in mid, gained by Rogue, but now it's about getting it onto the site as they're going to crunch towards A. They still have to wait out a few more smokes that are over here towards the connector, as that has tried to throw a little bit of a miniature fake, but obviously it's going to be revealed in a second as they actually walk through their own smoke here, getting themselves into the site up on steps. Centauri's going to know that. Now they watch out for him, but he gets himself away. Gives Eagle the time he needs to prep for the duel. Calyx looking for some trades, and he puts 2 up onto the board, but Rogue still making good progress here as they picked up multiple kills themselves and have the man advantage. Calyx will reposition, but he'll get caught by Katie in a back triple. And Engine now is going to look for a clutch. Only has an UMP2 and a 1v3 here. And they've got players watching for Ticket. Has a good chance as the player that was watching Ticket goes back for a second, but no, it will not happen. And there's going to be another round put up onto the board by Rogue.
Okay, now we're talking Rogue. I mean, that's the kind of round you need to prove that you need to win, that you can win to close out a map like this versus Space Soldiers, where you're going through all the checks and balances, you're taking default mid-control, you're going for a connector split that's more thought out, slow-paced, and now you've got the fast stuff and the slow stuff in your pocket. It's going to force Space Soldiers to be a little bit more confused about when they can use utility, and in fact has earned them a save. So Major's the only threat of the round right now with the AWP. KD is going fast out mid to peek into connector with his AWP.
Ricky starting things off well, finding Zetaris inside of the connector and opening up a path for them to quickly go onto the A-bomb site. The only one that'll be there to defend it will be Calyx, hiding out currently, as you can see here on the ramp now. All 3 of the remaining players from Space Soldiers still sitting way back on the B site. It'll be quite a long rotate away, although Paz did start to rotate a little bit early. Calyx immediately dispatched by Ricky, and that's it. The site's under the control of Rogue, and the round is pretty much over here, as Space Soldiers want to prioritize saving that op, along with a little bit of extra buy capability that they have. They're just going to run inside of the back B halls and chill to the end of the round.
It's not the worst half in the world to end with 5. I think all things considered, I would be more concerned about the quality of the rounds that were won, and I think that if you look at the ones that Rogue did, they look like they could play as a team. They look like they could play fast. The shots are on point. The kill count's getting up there for everybody, and I think Space Soldiers are going to be a little bit more worried. I feel like as much as every round is important, like in terms of moving into the second half, the ones that you win near the end of the half, I feel like leave more of a lasting impact on your confidence, because you feel like, all right, well, if we had it together in the beginning, why didn't we have it at the end? And so it's going to be a good sign for Rogue if they can make these last 2 potential rounds a reality, and to move into a CT side where it might be more of a level of comfort for them.
Let's see now, if your Space Soldiers do get that save, they are going to be coming back in with a relatively full buy for the final round. One thing is, I don't think they actually got enough cash to be able to afford an op, so they are going to be playing without that for the final round. It should just be 5 rifles, I do believe, unless Major... Oh no, they did manage to get an op, excuse me. So Major's going to be carrying that for Space Soldiers.
All right, let's get into it. Last round of the first half of the first map here at this grand final. Xantaris put into connector. Major also finding an opening over the top of the connector smoke. And Hiko entering back.
The problem is Paz also picked up the on his 6, so sadly the trade is not going to equal back out. Engine and Xantaris is going for full control at mid, and that's it. It's all down to Vice, and he's going to be spotted by Calyx, a Ticket to end the half 11-4 in the favor of Space Soldiers, a dominating opening half on the CT side for them.
Oh, well, it looks like Major's emphatically explaining something to Calyx, but hopefully it's ending on a positive note. That was a pretty clean round from them. All things considered, they dealt with a lot of chaos in that moment, and I think the one thing is that was the thing they were most prepared for in terms of mid control was the fast mid presence, whether or not there were nades. So maybe it would have been the best bet for Rogue to slow it down a little bit more, but they definitely shown they could win their fast rounds as well. So not entirely surprised.
That was definitely the major strategy when it came to these more slower paced rounds, was they sort of just maintain constant mid-control and be pretty aggressive about that too, especially towards connector. They always had a pretty consistent presence there. The only time they didn't go for it was the few times that Rogue did do that pop smoke that goes over the top and blocks off the other side. They usually backed away at that point. Yeah. But other than that, Space Soldier just always had a constant presence, and it was pretty even actually in terms of who ended up controlling it by the end of the round. Nice. Well, the second half is now coming up. You saw it there just a few seconds ago. The trophy now waiting on the stage for one of these two teams to claim it. Both of them need to get through map number 1 before we see that. So let's dive back into the action. Space Soldiers with a good opening half, but we could be thrust right back into a close game if Rogue gets a good start here on CT side.
Cadian to take his position in window just to make sure there's no one coming out top mid. Everybody from Space Soldiers has grouped up in the B apartments. Nico playing that position that we saw Paz in earlier. HE grenade could be good.
Gonna come in a little bit late, but Nico ready to take the fight from inside of the site, holding the close corner, looking for one more here now, but no, he goes down to Calyx and Vice. He's actually low through that smoke. He's got to be careful about his own position here. Same could be said for Calyx, though, as he's still getting spammed down from outside of those apartments by these market players. There's multiple, actually only one from Sick coming back in. The others are all going to come from Cat right now as Cadian wrapping forward, quickly knocks out Xantares. Another one at bench, Engine holding a good fight, but Ricky pushes out and takes him down. Calyx is next to follow with that. Rogue are back in the game as they pick up a 5th round and the opening pistol for the second half.
Yeah, the retake is on, and I'm sure they're wiping sweat from their foreheads. This is definitely a moment to be relieved if you are Rogue, trying to get this W on the first map. Good opening, couple of kills from Hiko, clean headshots. And the third peak looked nice too, but they didn't need to play like Paz to close out versus a B rush. Leading Space Soldiers to think a little bit about how they want to spend their money. So because they got that plant, obviously it looks like they're going to go for the AK buy next round. That's going to be a little bit light on utility, but they know that Rogue are also going to be somewhat low. You know, I think something interesting here is if no one dies and Rogue don't upgrade anything, Space Soldiers are going to be at a small advantage in this next round. Even if they lose this.
Especially if they manage to get kills here. Cac doesn't account for this, so Ricky is going to be able to do some great damage, knocking these guys out one by one. Only Calyx, he hasn't even gotten himself outside a connector yet. Literally no one does. Becomes the gauntlet right there, and Rogue shut it down nice and easily on the second round.
Yep. They get the 1 MP9 kill at the very least, and that bit of money is going to matter, especially in this long trek back up to a tie at 11-11. That road is very long and arduous, and it's actually Engine to pick up a Mac 10. I mean, I don't know. There are no unhead armored opponents, so maybe he's just trying to play on hard mode.
He's just taking a little bit of a better odds at a close fight potentially. He's going pretty aggressively into those apartments to try and take control here early on. Dodges a nice opening nade too there, but Hiko definitely suspects something, and he's got his own SMG to play off of too, so it'll be more of an even bout between those two players. It's only him hiding out in these apartments, though, just trying to draw attention as the rest of Space Soldiers. Scratch that, actually. Major is going to end up grouping up with him in the B site, and they're going to dive in. However, oh, no, Engine spots Hiko, takes him down. So he's got a little bit of control towards B. They're getting ready to move out into Palace at the same time, but this isn't going as successfully. Vice holding strong, the molly on the ground as well, certainly helping his case as he picks up 2 from there. The third almost falling, but what was important is that the bomb did indeed get dropped, so they're now forced into going for an A-take.
There's a lot of confusion on the map right now. Long range Thomas, nothing to scoff at. Calyx dropping down the ladder like Spider-Man with the AK, and somehow getting a headshot as well. Engine still got the MAC-10 up, bombs down on the A site, flash goes into CT, and Engine puts a 2-piece on the board with this drive-by MAC-10.
Sadly, it is going to end pretty quickly afterwards, though, as Ricky does finally trade him out. Never got to have any effectiveness with that FAMAS, but molly presence, but that's just going to force Cadian into the open as he quickly finds a pick against Calyx. Major left alone. He still has a decent amount of time to play, especially since he has a site control. But it is looking like he's going to try to play this forward a little bit more. Sadly, that leads him right into the path of Cadian once more. And with him shutting it down, Space Soldiers won't be able to push ahead just yet. Rogue find their 7th, and now we've got a game.
Yeah, and you can see the immediate decisiveness from Cadian. Major must have been so surprised to see that he had rotated that far that quickly, and that's because he moved right away, which is very important, obviously, to be decisive at all times when playing Counter-Strike. Whether or not you know that it may or may not be the best decision, the most ideal decision, to do something quickly has so much more merit than to do things perfectly. I guess is the best way to put it. In a game that's all too subjective.
A run boost to get the Space Soldiers players out in the mid to avoid any issues with the window player, but it's not going to be present this time from Rogue. They pretty much completely abandoned mid, playing to the sites instead. They do have close watch on areas like Connector, but the jungle is relative. Actually, excuse me, Vice did just rotate over here now, so he's going to push forward. That's aggressive. He's got to be careful. Paz is unaffected by that otherwise good flashbang that was tossed out to affect these Ts. And with that, Space Soldiers get the open kill and a free M4, and Cadian just is stopped in his tracks as well. Forced into the open, Paz runs out through jungle. Sick has to stop this now before it gets too far out of control. Ricky thankfully can still help from his cat position too, but even he's taking damage and is forced away because of that. Sick is still ready for the fight though. He's going to find one more from inside of A. Knocks out Paz, drops the rifle more importantly, and brings it down to just Major and Calyx now.
Yeah. Obviously key for him just to try to stay alive. You can see Sick kind of almost panicked, making sure that nobody can try to flank him in the situation, dropping a defensive smoke down on default. As a 2 Space Soldiers players make their intentions clear that they want to hit A. The rotates are actually quite far, and this means that if it's known that Sick is sitting here or anywhere around here, our Palace guy could actually catch him off guard, potentially get a bomb plant in this situation. Finally, our CT man is starting to lurk over as time ticks down.
Less than 20 seconds remaining here. Quickly going further than that. Sick is going to be challenged unsuccessfully for control of the bomb site. And Calyx traps himself. The Sick's going to get one more kill off at the end. A nice round overall from him, picking up 3 kills, all from inside of that A bomb site in Rogue. Now find their 8th round, getting through the anti-eco. But here comes Space Soldiers' first real big buy, as they're going to get everything onto the table here now. Xantari's a little bit of delay as they trying to figure out if they want to try to go for a risky glass cannon up buy, but it's not looking like it's going to happen. They'll just stick with 5 AKs for this round.
Kind of a messy opening, but a good dismount, and that's all that really matters. And now, yeah, just see plenty of utility all around, so let's see how it goes. Katie goes for the opening kill to Flick, while half blind through the wall at top mid. That's a big frag.
Knocks him out and leaves Space Soldiers with absolutely no recourse to be able to trade that back out. So they're stuck again with a disadvantage to open up this round. And their players, once again, as well, also going to remain incredibly spread out here at the beginning. They've got top mid control, but they no longer have anyone in the B halls to try and go for an underpass push, which would give them full control of mid. They do have players looking towards both ramp and palace, but without that mid control, they're not going to feel secure to go for this execute. So probably looking at quite a bit of a delay for Space Soldiers before we actually see them group up for something. The bomb is now shifting as well, heading over to the B halls, as that's going to start to look like the next best option for them.
It's clear presence has started to be made. Hiko got kind of abused by the MAC-10 on the round previous, so you want to make sure that doesn't happen again. Trying to go for the safest jump spot possible by running as opposed to jumping straight up and down. It's a smart thing to do versus very quick oppers. And as soon as Xantaris spots him, initiates the rush.
Okay, getting a surprise flashlight to his face. Now gets past the smoke in time. Hiko will, however, fall, and so does Ricky. No trade being found this time. Space Soldiers have the advantage now, and they're going to continue to claim it as Paz now finds the 3rd kill this round. Vice and Caden are all that's left, but they're giving it up. They're backing away. Space Soldiers take it just on the execute and get their 12th round, an opening round of the T side.
Yeah, it's definitely time to retreat, and you can see by the amount of health remaining and how each of these players who are low HP got their kills that it came down to these straight-up aim duels that Space Soldiers were able to outclass them in. I mean, if any of these go the other way, it's 3v3, someone's still left in B, and it might not even be a retake situation. Potentially the rotates get in, bomb doesn't even get planted, so I think it comes down to Rogue winning just at least one of those engagements, and this ultimately is a point-and-click adventure at the end of the day. If you don't put frags on the board, you aren't going to win.
So Space Soldiers now falling back, not going to go for any hunting kills just yet, despite that little bit of extra cash they did have left over. So both of the rifles are saved by Rogue. Cadian keeps the op, and the M4 is also saved. But now comes that double op setup that we were talking so much about in the pregame. Cadian and Ricky going to work with it, and that is certainly a threat that Space Soldiers want to be very, very wary of.
Yeah, here's a key moment where Space Soldiers can actually start to snowball. And again, almost everybody here except for Hiko sacrificing head armor, which leaves them a little bit vulnerable to Major, who wants to take first contact. And Cadian go for this boost on the bench, getting real creative to see all the way back into this.
This could be awesome right here. I don't think Space Soldiers are going to expect this at all.
This is definitely seeming like what they need. Hopefully they don't get off of it. And hopefully a pre-flash doesn't come out for Rogue.
They're relying pretty heavily on the players that are holding connector at mid to be able to do this successfully, but yep, there's that pre-flash. Sadly, it won't work. Cadian still hits one of the follow though, but it's going to get caught on the way back. Major finding one on the back 10, and now 2! He's doing work with that. Completely clears out the site. Rotates are on the way. They've got utility, so I believe they'll make an attempt at this. They've got to be, of course, very, very wary because they don't know what kind of aggression we're going to see. Major finally gets taken down via a nade from Sick inside of the market. Out the window cross. Engine attempts to shut down that player. It'll be unsuccessful, though. Still, not a whole lot of action from Rogue just yet as they're running in the timer a little bit. Like I said before, they have their own smokes and utility to try to play off of here. Xantaris will catch Sick with a corner spot. counters the smoke, and Calyx coming out of nowhere there, just completely destroying Vice. Leaves only Ricky in the fight via 1v3. Xantares having some fun with him, but sadly that'll cost him his life. Regardless, though, it has done enough to force Ricky out of the situation into a save, and nearly into the grave now. He does have at least one of the T's chasing him down, but the round is over. It's going to go to Space Soldiers, and they will keep their lead strong. At 13-8, a 5-round advantage over Rogue. And oh, even worse, Ricky does get taken down at the end. You can see Major's happy about that.
Wow, that's unreal. I think Calyx went through and hit the spam, and that's actually a giant find. I mean, it feels like a mute point because it happens at the end of the round, but they don't have that next time. And even Hiko there, Major was low, and Hiko had head armor. He hit him with a double dink instantly. Shout out to the neck hitbox, I feel like, in that situation. My goodness.
Some new stuff that we saw at it, and it's changing up things a little bit in the game, but for this round, Rogue, sadly, after getting decimated on the last round, economy has been broken, so they are in a full eco territory. Only CZs being purchased, really. Besides that, CZs and P250s, to correct myself there. Very, very minimalist investment from Rogue in this round overall, and only one flashbang too. And that, along with a gamble stack, and just having Cadian set over in the B-bomb site. Watching the event, the site take happens there.
Oh, Xantares got a clue. Sick got the business. So Rudy methodically clears out the B, or the A site, I should say. That's it. And this game is all but over if Rogue don't pick it up right here, right now. I mean, this is definitely map 1. And it probably comes down to this rifle round. So let's see what Rogue have for us, how they're going to start things out differently. Getting abused at B has been a big problem for them. Taking control of it with a deep B smoke is always an option. And also, yeah, if you're falling victim to these executes, and they did try to do that boost at bench, but I mean, all the Space Soldiers had to really do was flash once. I mean, they were relying on them doing some kind of walkout execute, which was kind of a risk in that regard. And I'm sure they didn't talk about where exactly they would fall back to if flashed off in that situation. And that's the problem with displacing the defense with the pressure on at the same time. You know, if they had 2 people in there and they both picked their spots and sat there, like the flashes coming over would be one thing, but they would still know in terms of protocol how to react. But because they were planning on, hoping to catch someone off guard before that, I'm sure they were caught off guard in terms of where they needed to go once the rush was on. So maybe getting the op up in B apps and pushing all the way through is an option for them, deep B smoke, or trying to push another extremity of the map like Palace to get information early so they can free up the rotations, which is another response that you can have if you're having trouble holding on to sites.
Cadian's gonna get aggressive this time, dude. Pushing back in, had a spot, had a free open shot. He's got another chance at it, but no! He's gonna overstay his welcome, and with that, Calyx will be able to take him down. We saw another push coming back in from Hiko as well to try to stabilize the situation, but that didn't end up panning out too well. He had to back away from the site too. Off of that kill, Space Soldier's gonna dive right into the site, but it might work out against their favor. Ricky's got a strong hold. They found a trade on Hiko, so for the time being, Ricky is alone, and they're already taking out the rotators too before Ricky's even been knocked out. They weren't aware that he was here still, however, but he gets too aggressive, pushes back into that site, meets his maker. 2 players from the bench are ready to take him down. Sick has the crossfire. That doesn't matter when Major's in the server. Quickly gets out, finds the peak and the kill against Sick to put Space Soldiers on map point.
Space Soldiers just going with their bread and butter. They know they can take advantage of B, and I think that Rogue had the right idea. You know, they put Cadian up there. Instead of waiting farther back for the flashes to come over, they decided to go into B apps and try to take first contact, and unfortunately missed a player jumping in the back and then missed another shot that might have been a little bit, less likely a hit in the first place, but still 2 chances nonetheless, and that allowed Space Soldiers to swarm the site, so that might be all she wrote. 4 spy here for Rogue. It'd be 7 rounds in a row, an amazing storyline if they were able to bring this back, but it is going to start with this bargain basics buy. An MP9, MAC-10, UMP, Scout, and M4, the best weapon that they have available to them. Nobody's got a kit. And it doesn't seem like a clue either. It's everyone's still kind of passive in their default. There's a couple players actually peeking out mid, so they've got some semblance of information. Ricky goes and turns this corner. He can tell his teammates something.
Xantares already picking up one of the opening kills, though. Ricky turn things around from his position forward. He does just that. It's a quick trade from Paz, however, but there's still more to come from the CTs. More surprises awaiting in mid. Once again, though, Space Soldiers are ready to take on that challenge as they knock out Vice, bringing Rogue down to only 2. It is going to be on a Scout and a Mag 7. Now just a Mag 7 to hold themselves in this map. Otherwise, Space Soldiers are going to take control and go up 1-0, and I think it's pretty likely that we'll see that here now. And in fact, that's exactly what we're going to get. Engine gets the final kill. 16-8 is going to be our final score for map number 1 of the grand final here. Space Soldiers take it, and now one more map stands between them and the trophy in the middle of the stage.
Yeah, this is a scary-looking Space Soldiers. I mean, they really just wiped the floor with Rogue in that match, and they took advantage of everything. They didn't look like they were scared at any point in time. And even though Rogue had some cool stuff in the first half, it really didn't come together in half number 2.
Some bumpy moments in the road, especially right at the beginning there of the second half, when we did see a little bit of solidity finally showing up there for the Rogue roster, but just could never really get their feet on the ground, especially in the first half. Just so many constant resets thrown at them. Their economy never really even getting a chance to build up to a point where they would have liked it to be. Sadly, just that detrimental 4-11 scoreline couldn't bring it back from there as Space Soldiers hit the ground running right from their opening gun round in the second half, and it was just an easy closeout from that point forward.
Yeah, so I think we're going to throw it to our analyst to give us some more professional insight on what just happened. Boys, take it away.
Don't sell yourself short, Landers.
I feel like
plenty of insight from the other side of the backstage area.
He put professional in quotes there. That felt very sarcastic from Landers.
He has the most deadpan humor of anyone ever.
Yeah,
It's really hard to know
if
he's talking that way or not. So Space Soldiers return to their dominant form as well on Mirage. Back-to-back strong performances on Mirage. Not entirely surprised by that, but what I am surprised by is Calyx kept form.
Yeah, it appears they didn't get the memo about that recipe not being sustainable for the whole series. I think Calyx is up to like 90 kills now across the last 3 maps that he's played. He's still showing unbelievable form.
And an incredible piss around here from Paz and Xantares. I remember all of us in the green room were freaking out over this mid push. Xantares just shut it down. I felt like everything they did on the CT side was just the right thing. I don't want to take anything away from Space Soldiers, but I think Rogue could have benefited more from maybe trying to hit the B bomb site. They did try mid quite a bit. They did a little, some A scrims, some A executes, some A splits, stuff like that. Everything got shut down, and it.
you just see Major smile like ahead of time. You can just tell.
Yeah.
He knows.
I know exactly what that play was. That's when he killed Ricky sneaking through the vent at the last second. Because it was the only time this entire tournament that I've actually seen Calyx smile. He's very deadpan with his emotions, very stale-faced. But as you can see, based on the numbers, I mean, Calyx went huge. 24-9, 98 ADR.
Xantares not too far behind, though. 21 kills. He has double the entry kills of Calyx and 91 ADR. So he also showed a big here. From the Rogue side, I mean, it's pretty even effort across the team, but there was just no standout performer. Riki, who we said was going to be their most important player, did play the best, but obviously, it was nowhere near enough.
Yeah, they just simply got shut down by the dynamic duo of Space Soldiers as Xantares and Calyx picked up right where they left off in the previous BO3. And when you're riding that high, you're playing on fire Counter-Strike, you feel like you can do anything. So they weren't afraid to take any challenges. They shut down everything that Rogue was trying to do before they could even do it half the time.
And they played much more aggressive this time on the CT side, I think, than in some of the previous games.
Absolutely.
For example, the highlight where Xantares just rushed up middle. I think sometimes they maybe play a little too passive, I think, with their personnel. Yeah,
I would say that. They have the fraggers and the aim to be able to do those kind of aggressive plays, but I would agree most of the time they play very passive. They play kind of structured. They could benefit from mixing up from time to time.
So here's the question. Overpass is the next map. A perma-ban.
It's going to get interesting.
A perma-ban.
This is going to get interesting.
This is not a map they ever really play. They usually get rid of it, but they chose to veto Nuke instead. I really have no idea what we should expect from Space Soldiers. Is there a chance that this is like a back pocket map? Like, just kidding, we're not actually bad at it.
I don't think it's a back pocket map, but there's always a chance. You win the pistols, you win the first gun rounds, you break the other team's economy. Like, you can always win a map in Counter-Strike, but like, there's no chance that it's a back pocket map. There's no chance for it.
I think they probably have some kind of game plan. They wouldn't do that. Play this map without a game plan.
Yeah.
If I'm Space Soldiers and I'm seeing how on fire these two players are on my team, Calyx and Xantares, I'm going to call really fast, aggressive strats. They want to double op. Try and keep their money low and catch them off guard. Trying to set up in positions with those ops. Use your flashbangs and smokes early. Get into advanced positions as fast as you can and try and break up the defense before it can get set. And I think you could have a chance, but Overpass, like I said, is a super hard map to do that on. There is so many angles for operators to take.
Also, the hard thing about Overpass, even like outside of tactics and being prepared and everything, like that map requires really good coordination. Like, you have to have really good communication and get all the timings for the retakes and everything going on. There's quite a few like specific flashes you need to master with timings for peaks. And I mean, it's just a map that just requires practice, right? Like, it's not one that it's easy to jump on. It's not one of the caches or mirages that you guys excel on.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about communication. I believe on day one we were interviewing Major, and he said the team has communication problems, and they're trying to get past that. And I think this is going to be a real test for their communication.
Agreed. Now, if you're not content with the traditional viewing experience, head on over to DreamHack.com/digital pass presented by Snipe. That gets you the multi-view plus additional content as well. It's definitely something worth checking out. It also gets you highlights, but we are going to throw things to a break, and when we come back, it'll be Map 2 Overpass between Space Soldiers and Rogue. Stay tuned.